let's go. We're going to be learning a little bit about how to wall. We're going to probably focus a little bit on Scouts build. Of course, there's so many different openings. There's around 7 or 8 common openings. Like, you can go Drush, well, Drush FC, Drush Flush, aka Militia into Archers. You could go Scouts, Scouts into Castle Age, Scouts into Archers. You could go Men-at-Arms Archers, Men-at-Arms Towers. Those are pretty common. You can go straight FC, like Greedy FC. You could go straight defensive 1-range archers, straight 2-range archers. There's a lot of things that you can do. So I'm not going to be able to go over how to wall with every single strategy. Some strategies you don't really want to wall as much, like the more aggressive strategies. You don't really want to be walling as much because you want to invest more into military. But maybe you get your walls later on in Feudal Age. So we're going to be focusing on Scouts because that's going to be what most people are going to be playing, especially at lower levels, and it's more useful to figure out how to wall so that you don't die in Feudal Age. So, first 2 houses, probably going to be like that, just you're going to build them close to your villagers. Now, this kind of house, like with 2 houses, this is sort of a carryover from the old game where, well, there was no shift queuing, there was lag, you didn't start with your starting sheep as well sometimes, so sometimes you'd have to go and find them. So usually you just quickly place 2 houses because you could do that automatically without thinking. Whereas these days, it's probably better to just get 1 house with the 2 vills, and then use the 3rd vill to chop stragglers while you bring in the turkeys or whatever. Or even just go straight to turkey, it's not really a big deal. Then you have another house for your wall. But we're gonna assume that we're going 2 houses around the TC here. So, on this map, we get the 2 houses. Next building that comes down is the lumber camp. We're going to want to build it close to the berries if it's in the back as well. So this is a good one. This is why we're not taking this side. This is another good wood line, but the berries is on this side. So I like this side because then it's easier to small wall to start if you need to. Now the gold is pretty exposed, but if we're going Scouts, it's not a big deal on this map. But yeah, the next building that comes up is going to be, well, either 2 houses or the mill. It's something like that. Like, usually I like to get the houses first. So if we were going to be building houses, well, why not wall to the TC on this map? Because the gold is so exposed. How are we going to wall this gold in? We're going to have to go all the way around like this. And that's not going to be good. Especially if you're going Scouts. It's like, you aren't going to be able to defend that against Men-at-Arms. So I think it's appropriate to make a couple houses like this. And then we get the mill. So if we're going Scouts, it's nice to have them 1 tile away if you're going to put 5 on it. We don't want it too close to the lumber camp because then we're not going to be able to make farms around it. And if you have a mill in the back, you want to be able to make farms around it. So even placing it here is okay for this because we'll chop those out pretty quickly and then it'll be okay. Because we can put 3 on this top side and then 2 on the bottom side, and we can distribute the 3 on their own bush, and it'll be fairly efficient. So it'll be fine like that. And then it comes down to palisade walling a little bit. So we'd want to have this side palisade for sure. We probably want a couple of palisades here just to link up with this straggler tree. He's not going to want to run units back. And luckily we're walled from the back. Now we could go to this house like this, but what do we get in this area? There's nothing here. So there's no real reason in terms of like there's no gold here or anything, but we do want to secure a second wood line if possible. So I think I like this wall. Yes, we're going to be building the wall along this low ground, but it's not the biggest deal. So we would just go like that. Now, look, if we're going to go Scouts, this is no problem at all. He can't really run past with militia. You just react. You'd probably want like another something here, even just a palisade wall. Just a couple palisade walls, just like that, just to really prevent the opponent from getting in. You want to have like 3 tiles away from the TC. There's enough to build farms around it, and then also 3 tiles is about where you can just shoot them down. The next building that you'd be building would be a barracks. We don't have access to the gold, so we do want to be starting to secure that if possible. If the opponent drushes or does Men-at-Arms, we're going to need to build the barracks back, though. Forward farms. Well, yeah, but if you have Scouts, if your opponent's going ranged units, you want an archery range anyways. So, like, this is going to be perfect. And also, you don't need to place forward farms. You have a mill in the back. So you just place it around the mill, and look, they're safe. So as long as you don't potato and just let a bunch of archers through your wall, then it's fine. So yeah, I'd probably make it like this. Because a lot of the time, players are going to go for Men-at-Arms And you're not going to be able to get them in front of the gold, unfortunately. So you could have it something like this would be fine. If you really want to restrict your opponent's movement, you could have a little wall like that would be good. And this would be, you don't even have to finish this wall, but you could easily do that. So your walls would kind of look like this. Since the gold is so far forward and you can't really secure it with walls properly, you'd have scouts, and you'd probably want to have an archery range if the opponent is going archers, which a lot of the time that is going to happen. So you have to be watching for that. This is a pretty good map though, like with the back berries, and you don't have to take the gold until later. You could secure this with a tower as well. So you could easily have, say, a tower maybe here. If we had the mining camp here, you could have it here. This would cover everything. He could sit down here, but he doesn't really want to sit down here because it's on the low ground. You can have units. So you want to control the higher ground. You don't want it touching the mining camp, though. Then you can't build it with as many vills, and then also it hurts your efficiency as well. The tower here, it has 8 range to start. It's enough to cover feudal archers easily. And also this covers a little bit more up here, which can be good. So there we go. That's pretty much how I would set up my base on this map if I was going to play scouts. Now, let's take a look at the other base. This is a very different base to wall, because say that blue is going to go for men-at-arms, because that's going to be pretty common. Scouts as well would be common, but how you would set up this map, so we'll start with the 2 houses. We have 2 houses and a barracks to work with now. So first lumber camp. Definitely going to be the back lumber camp. You're probably going to have it like that. The other lumber would probably be on this side because this is where the berries are, so it makes it easier to wall. So you don't want to wall too close to these berries on this wood line, but we still want to go towards the TC. What you could do is your next 2 houses could be something like that, and you could put a barracks here, which would not be too bad. Nice chunky building. And then you always want to check this. See, look, that's open. You always check with the wall. You can even check the corners like this. You can check the corner like this. Now it's going to be walled. So then we go like that. So that side's walled. We just want to have a little palisade wall down to here. So we'd probably get this one walled first, because if he's going to come to your base, it's going to be here. Time. If he's going to drush you, he's going to come the most direct way because he wants to hit as fast. So you'd want to get this walled first. And then you'd get this walled second, because the opponent's on this side. Now, the opponent can come from the top, of course, but it's not as big of a deal. The berries is down here. If you really need to, you can wall, like, here to the TC. You could do just, like, a really quick wall here and here, something like that. Walling to TC, hard to transition to full walls. Well, yeah, but you don't need to go full walls all the time, though. Because if you're going to be making TCs and military, then you don't really need full walls. Of course, when you're up against knights or something, you do want to finish the walls, but you want to get through feudal age without taking too much damage first. So protecting the gold, you're going to need to have military to protect this gold, because it's forward, it's on a disgusting hill. Like, you can try and get a wall like this, but if your opponent's going men-at-arms, he's going to deny the wall, and then you're going to lose the game. So if we're going to do small walls, it's going to be like this. And yeah, the top, it might be a little bit exposed, but this would be an emergency wall. Say that the men-at-arms, you see there's men-at-arms coming from the top. You make a wall like this with houses or palisades. Then the berries are somewhat safe. He has to go all the way around here. Hopefully by that time you're going to have military. And if you have some scouts on this hill with some vills, then you're probably okay against the men-at-arms. But red's map's a lot more difficult to wall compared to blue's map. So red would want to go more aggressive here with military, and blue could probably be a little bit more greedy just because of these 2 wood lines being in the back like this. Super easy to wall, and then wall to the TC. The only thing that would be better for blue is if the gold was in the back as well. Then blue would that would be like an FC map. Just, you could do anything, it really is blue. Just get the walls up. Whereas red, it's a little bit more open. But if you try and make the walls too big, and your opponent has men-at-arms, he's just going to attack your Wallingville. You lose the Wallingville, and now you've just wasted like 100 wood or whatever into useless walls, and also you lost a Ville. And then you just end up dying because he's just putting pressure, because you were relying on getting walls up. If you rely on getting walls up and then you don't even get them up, that's when you lose the game. Yeah, you'd want to be getting your military out a lot of the time instead of walling. Some maps you just can't rely on walling. Like this red's map, you can't really rely on it. Yeah, I'd probably want to have the stable somewhat forward. You could work towards a stable wall in front of the gold. You could get it here. If, say, the men-at-arms are on this side, you could get the stable out here. Or actually, not there, but it would be like You'd want to get it sort of in front of the gold like this. And then we would just make some houses. So we would have like a couple of houses like this. And then you'd want to wall down to here. Something like that. And then we'd want to just wall this in. So you'd go like this. And then to finish securing it, you'd go like that. Does that make sense? It's like, you get the stable here if the men-at-arms are doing damage back here, doing damage here, because the opponent's going to have archer follow-up, but if you know where the enemy's army is, you can safely get your villager out here, especially if you have this walled, then he can't come and deny this if he's over here. So you would resource walls, men-at-arms at the back of your base. With this, you can have the small walls, but then resource walls if he gets in. Like the small walls on this side is great if he decides to attack down here. Because look, if say that he sends his men-at-arms here or to here first, just ignore that these are up, then he has to send his units all the way around. It's only an issue if he sends his guys to the top first and then downwards, which can happen. Then you just resource wall. But then again, you can wall a little bit to the TC here. You can resource wall this, wall a little bit to the TC. Actually, you'd probably just put like a house here or 2 palisades here. You'd go like that. And look at that. Now he can't walk past the TC. 2 palisade walls, and then you'd have this resource wall like that. Yeah, he can come around the back, but that's going to take more time. And then we can easily go like doot doot. And then you could have like a little wall like this. And even like that. And now, again, we've just placed like 5 palisade walls, 7 palisade walls just to block that direction. And we didn't need to go all the way out here because that's riskier. Ooh, we got Desert Arabia. Okay, so this is different. We've got forward berries, back gold, and wood lines kind of far away. So remember, we start with 2 houses. House, house. We have 2 more houses and a barracks to work with. So I usually, if the berries are forward, I like to get houses in front of the berries to start. It gives you a bit of line of sight and also pretty much always helps you to wall. So house there. And it's a little bit awkward, but you could have a little palisade wall there. Probably just go down to the berries here. And something like this. This is probably how I would protect the berries. It's not too far out because, look, there's nothing in this area. We don't need to protect all this. There's a big hill here, but there's no resources that we need to protect. So just walling close. We'd have the mill here. Oh, down 1 tile. We'd have it like there. You could incorporate the mill into part of the wall. Like, you could have it like this, which is actually not a bad idea. But then the vills that are exposed on the outside can be a little bit annoying. But if I was going to incorporate the mill, this would be the map to do it. We'd basically have it like this, but we still have to wall the vill in, so we'd still have to go like this. It's still almost as the same amount, so you'd rather have the mill further back in the base as well. Like if I have the mill back here, it's going to be easier to place farms, or even like here. So then we just wall to here, and then we can place farms easier because it's more in the back. And you don't want it as close to the hill as well. That's a good thing to consider. So yeah, this map, you could wall down here, but it's a lot more exposed. You don't really want to get a wall this far away if you're going to go scouts. Even if you're going, well, if you're going men-at-arms archers as well, like you just generally don't want a wall this far away from your TC. That's this long as well. If you wanted to secure the berries, you could go something like this. This is a map where you almost have to make kind of bigger walls like this, but it's not the biggest deal. Like you could go like that. You wouldn't wall the back first though. So you'd want to wall the front. You want to think about where your lumber is. You have 2 back wood lines. You've got that one up here, and then we've got this one down here. You're likely to take this back wood line first, so you could work this wall, but then you'd want to take this one as well. Basically, to wall, you'd want to go like this. There we go. You can leave the front open, that's fine. If you are against scouts, you can make it like this. Just go like that. Something like that. It's kind of ugly, but whatever. Well, with the scout in the way and stuff like that. Then you have farm space. Like if the opponent's going scouts, as long as you can still place farms in front, then it's all good. You have enough space. I like to place houses on the sides here, closer to the wood, because it allows you to have a little bit more line of sight, especially once you get town watch. So I'd normally have, say, a house here. I usually like to go like that. Gives you that slight more line of sight. This kind of setup is sort of how I would set up my base. These are pretty big base walls, though. You might not be able to get walls exactly like this. If your opponent's going men-at-arms and he gets in, you're not going to be able to make walls like this. You're going to have to go scouts, and then you have to get an archery range. Now, by the time you're making TCs, you're going to want to have this walled. So, well, you could probably work towards just a house wall. Honestly, like even like this, you could just do that. And you'd rather have more house, because if you think about it, that's only 175 wood, and it's super strong. 175 wood, and now you're not going to get housed, and it just protects this entire side. This is like in Castle Age, though, to do that. Okay, let's take a look at Red's map. So, say that Red is also, well, wanting to go scouts or whatever. Red is going to place one house there, and then we have 2 houses to work with. Usually I like to place them by the berries. You don't want them back here, right? Because you want to go to the edge. You could wall like this. It gives you a bit less space. It's not too bad to go from this woodline to this woodline, because you're walling along the top of the hill, which actually strengthens it. But it gives you less space in your base. So I generally prefer to go to the edge here, but yeah, going from here to here, not bad. Because the reason you want more space is that you have more area to make another wall in behind. The disadvantage of going too far away is that it's harder to wall directly behind, but the further away, the more time you have to retreat vills or make another layer. So we'd probably go like house, like this, and we'd want maybe a little bit like that. And barracks on the front. We could work towards walls up here, but the initial walls, we'd want to just kind of go to this wood line like this wall here. Funnels him to the TC, and by the time he goes all the way around here, you can make palisades or whatever. It's kind of ugly, this gold, but you do eventually want to get a wall in front of it. Now, first lumber camp would definitely be back here. It would be here, and then you could make a second one here. Obviously, you wouldn't want to go up here. So if your lumber camps are like this, well, you probably want to have a wall like that and a wall like this, incorporate some houses in. And look, suddenly we have access to 2 wood. This wood is super safe in the back, and we've got the berries in the back. Where gold? Well, yeah, if we're going scouts, then this is fine, because we don't need gold right away. We make military, we can get a range, we can get skirmishers, the opponent's going archers, and then we take the gold later. If the opponent has no militia or men-at-arms in position, we'd probably want to go here. Usually, if you're not up against militia or men-at-arms, you wouldn't finish this. You would want to scout, but if you want to be extra safe, you can just make it like this, is fine. And then you just expand outwards, so we want to have it like that. We'd want to have the stable up here as well, so stable. And we just fill in the gaps with some houses, maybe some more palisades now. So we go like that. And we double check that we're walled in between here. Looks like there was one tile that wasn't walled, so you always check. There we go. So like that. So now this is very difficult for him to get through. If you have really ugly gold, do you kind of have to go scouts? Not really. No. You can go more aggressive. Yeah, if you go men-at-arms, then you can just take the ugly gold because you're keeping your opponent at home. At least that's the idea. And then you just defend enemy men-at-arms that come forward with your own archers. The main takeaway here is if you're going scouts, don't worry about securing the gold until you have your scouts out. Like, if the opponent had men-at-arms camping this, then you'd want to get your barracks and stable a little bit further back. So you'd probably want them back here. Placing defensive towers. Well, yeah, if we need to tower the gold, let's get a mining camp. Probably have it here. Watchtower. We should think about how much area is he gonna be on. Like, we could place it here. If it's here, it's gonna cover this entire hill. Doesn't matter if it's on the low ground, it covers the entire hill. It covers all the way down here. So that location of the tower is central. That's what you want to do. But it's a bit forward. So if your opponent already has archers out here, you might be forced to make it back here, which still covers most of the hill, but he can still be back here a little bit, but he can't shoot your vills because we have 8 range versus the 4 range of the archers. As long as your watchtower is 4 tiles away from the villagers that it's trying to protect, then it will be in range of the archers if they try to attack them. Say that we want to go archers to defend ourselves against men-at-arms here. Now this map, whoa, look at this open. We are not full walling this map. Not at all. If we're going straight archers, it's going to be house, house. We would have a lumber camp here. So we'd use one of the lumberjacks to build the houses this game. And see how I place them on top of the hill so that the only way to hit them is from the low ground out here. So you want to go along the top of the hill if you can. Instead of placing a palisade wall here, where he can get high ground or neutral ground, we place it here so he can only get the low ground. If he's got men-at-arms, you should... Well, his men-at-arms hits after you've clicked up anyways. If you're up 21, say that he's got super fast men-at-arms, like 20, you're still going to have the barracks started. So you're going to want to go for the barracks, not too far away, but enough to protect you. We got a pretty good map to actually protect. We could easily just go here, house, palisade, like that. Optimally, we'd be wanting to go for this wood line, though. So I think it's probably better if we put this building like this, the barracks like this. He's going to be at your base around when you're building the range. The range is being constructed when his guys are here, right? If you have it like that, how many houses is that? That's the initial 2, these 2. That's 2 extra in feudal age. And then we go like that. Look at this. So this is better. If you're being pressured by Drush, maybe you get the barracks back here, but then it's not going to be as nice for later, right? You just res wall. We just go like this. It'd probably be like kind of annoying. It'd be like that. Mill like that. We'd be pretty safe. The most optimal mining camp location is on the side that has 3. See how there's 3 tiles on this side? So it would be here. If you're going 1 range archers, it's probably fine to go here because you're only going to have 5 on there. Optimally, the mining camp would be here, but it's more exposed on this side. So it's not necessarily as good. And now look, we have a hill here. So if he does get in somehow, it's whatever. The opponent can come through the back. So we might consider making a wall down to here on the hill though. We don't want it on that low ground. We want to be paying attention. So we want to have it on the hill if possible. Like to here. So we go like that. Something like that. And that protects this wood line. Oh, wow. I just realized that this is actually open. In this situation, don't place 2 palisades because it's so far away. Just get a house. Get it so that he can't get good surround. And then we have access to 2 wood lines. So this is how you would set it up against men-at-arms. Going 1 range defensive archers. You can have defensive archers here. You can have good farms here. Like we can go like this. We would eventually have these deleted. This side would be pretty much deleted. Once we have archers out, then it's not really a big deal to have the full walls. So even that's 14 farms. That's as many farms as you usually need to go up to Castle Age. Your base would kind of look like this, and you'd set it up in that way. Now let's take a look at Red's map here. Oof. Just as disgusting. Actually, more disgusting. I like Blue's map a little bit better, except for that Blue has all these wood lines in a row, so towers would just kill Blue here. Red, he's got all of his res in different areas. It's harder to get military to defend everything. So Red would really want to be the aggressor here, but he's not going to die to a tower rush or something. He's going to have more chances if the opponent attacks to retreat stuff. We're going to have house. The lumber camp would be back here. 100% you'd want the lumber camp here. Now, berries are in the back. So if Red's going men-at-arms, then he probably isn't going to have walls early, so is going to maybe make bigger walls later. But if Red was gonna wall against Drush or men-at-arms, he'd probably wall towards this house. Wall to here, and then wall this off, and now suddenly only the back is exposed. Could try and get one from this wood line as well, but what does this do? If I go from this wood line, all I'm securing is the stone and a potential another wood line, which could be useful. Say that Red was scared of early men-at-arms and just wanted to protect against them. He'd basically set up his walls like this. And see, that's basically the smallest walls that you can do while still having enough space. And then, of course, well, the mill would be here. We'd have farms in the back, no problem. And then go to gold. But let's just think about how Red would set this up if he's playing men-at-arms archers. Because men-at-arms archers, you want to invest as many resources into your rush as possible before you make your walls. You want to have just resource walls to start. You can wall against scouts like this, a few walls there. This is in the back, but we would still want to have probably a few walls, something like this. Something like that. So that's pretty much all the walls that you'd want, because if your opponent is going scouts, then you're going to be the aggressor. The barracks still wants to come up around where the gold is. It's too far forward to get it up here though. So I'm considering probably going up here, because then we can wall the side here. So let's go here. We can have a house here, or some palisade walls here. If you do palisade wall here, then it's easier to get in for the opponent. Maybe you'd have a couple of palisades in front while you're waiting for enough wood for their range. You'd have your archery range here, or a little bit back. Actually, it's probably better to have it like here, just because if it's here, then he can get around it and prevent you from having reinforcements. But if you go like this, then it's probably better. You'd probably have a house or something like that. Just finish this off with a palisade wall, something like that. And then we would probably want to have a blacksmith coming up, something like that. Because you really do want to get fletching. If you're going to go men-at-arms archers, you want to hit fast with the archers and the men-at-arms, right? So you want to have fletching. We could make some little walls like this. It's not a big deal. Of course, we would have a mining camp. Now we're just putting pressure on blue. Blue's not really able to do anything. If we see skirmishers, then we might want to get this wall up. Once we see skirmishers out, or we aren't really going forward, we would want to work towards this wall next. So we'd go like that. Probably have something like this. Of course, we'd have houses in there as well. There we go. It doesn't really matter if the back is super exposed. There's no res that we're trying to secure. It's really just this gold that we secured like this. The only extra buildings that we made here was like 8 palisade walls. Because everything else is a multi-purpose building. Basically, a house gives you housing space and also is part of your wall. These buildings do other things and they're also part of your wall. So multi-purpose. So that's very useful. You can't die to feudal archers, and that's what matters. Once crossbowmen are in, if you don't have your own crossbowmen, like you're not up, then you might need a tower. If you're not up, if you potato, you're going to want a tower to prevent crossbowmen from coming in. Well, you want it more forward. Like, you don't want it over here because you can't garrison it. But you want it to be here or here, really. Or you could get it up here. Even here is okay. Probably something like that or down here. Normally, I favor getting it on the lower area, though, because then it covers more outside of the base. Whereas if it's up here, it's like, it kind of covers here, but it doesn't really cover the wood line anyways. So I think like that would be good. Great map for blue. This is like a drush map. So what if we go drush on this map? House, house, 2 houses. When we go to berries, then we go mill. The first lumber camp's probably back here. And then we probably want to build the barracks. Barracks might come up here. And we fill in the gaps with palisades. Now if we're gonna go drush FC, we want a full wall. So we want to really make sure that we're walled. So yeah, you know, we get some walls in there. This side gets walled. This side probably gets walled first. Like house in front of the gold, something like that. And then maybe we just palisade down to here. And then it's pretty easy to wall to the TC, or we can just wall to this wood line as well. We can go like that. Like, look at that. Super easy drush FC map. Unfortunately, the deer on the outside. We've got back gold, so we can easily take this gold. Very nice map. So red's map's not quite as nice because the resources are forward. So red would want to go more aggressive, maybe like men-at-arms here. Red would be like house, house, a couple of houses up here, mill, lumber camp, probably here, or back here. Either one. You'd probably want to take both at some point. Barracks would be up here. We might even palisade gate. Might even go like that. You'd work towards walls like this, but if you're going men-at-arms archers, you don't really need to. You'd have their range probably in front of the gold. Something like this. Because remember, men-at-arms archers, you're going to be putting pressure. If you invest into all these walls and your opponent is just drush FC, you're going to have a bad time. So instead of getting walls like this, you just play open and you make farms. This is how you would wall if your opponent's not drush FC, but if your opponent's drush FC, then you just don't even wall. The pawns are kind of annoying to wall. Pretty easy to wall some maps, so these small walls are good. If your opponent's going for really any military in feudal age, you do want to get your walls up eventually. Unless you're going for heavy aggression yourself. Like if you go men-at-arms archers and then add another range, we really don't need walls. At least we can wall maybe the bottom, keep the top open. This is where the military's coming out. Maybe wall this, but we could keep this front open. It's not really a big deal. If you have military and you just set up the base like that.